people seek better jobs, lower prices, and improved quality of life. The free market channels these desires into positive outcomes. This is cooperation, not exploitation. This is mutual benefit, not zero-sum gain. Hello, welcome to this week's Economy. I'm your host, Dr. Vance Ginn. Thank you for joining me again today. It's really a pleasure to have you with me. I got a lot to talk about, more in the Econ 101 series, because I really do believe that we've got to get back to the basics of economics. So much of what we're seeing out there in the policy front, at the state level, the local level, and especially at the federal level, indicates to me that we really are lacking in our understanding of economics and really basic economics. You could find this in a number of different places. I would recommend Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. I would also recommend maybe Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell, Capitalism and Freedom, or really Free to Choose by Milton Friedman. I think those are all good ones to start with that give you a good firm foundation to thinking like an economist instead of thinking like a central planner. Too often, it seems like economists are trying to use more of their power, wherever it may be, to just grab a little bit more to say, we can change the wheels, we can change the knobs of the economy and get it to be exactly what we want. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. I mean, it would be great if that's the way it did work, but people are dynamic. They behave in ways that we can't just model for 100% accuracy and say, this is what's going to happen. In fact, I don't believe that we should. When you get to the knowledge problem and other things that Frederick Hayek and others talked about, you really get into a lot of problems. And so today, what I really want to get into is looking at entrepreneurship, wealth creation, and innovation, and how all this stuff works together. Are you ready? Let's jump right into it, okay? So look, I'm consistently inspired by the entrepreneurial journey shared by my guests on the Let People Prosper show. If you're not watching those shows already, please go ahead and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can check them out, vanceginn.substack.com. Go back and watch my old ones as well. But there's just so much goodness that's coming from people that I hope that you'll go and check it out. You know, there's stories of building businesses, overcoming challenges, and innovating to improve lives. Remind me of the incredible value entrepreneurs bring to our world. At the same time, it's frustrating to see how policymakers can undermine entrepreneurship through higher taxes, regulatory hurdles, and other government interventions that stifle growth and innovation. This often stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the crucial role businesses play in driving progress and prosperity. I'm diving into the principles of entrepreneurship, why it's so essential, and why policies must support businesses to nurture the growth and prosperity they fuel and really get out of the way. So be sure to tune in to the full episode on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get it, or even visit my website at vanceginn.com for more information. Remember, the Let People Prosper show and newsletter is a reader and listener supported publication, so be sure to subscribe wherever you can. I'd greatly appreciate that. So, lesson number 1 today, entrepreneurship drives growth. It's not government spending or stimulus checks that create jobs. It's innovation. From Henry Ford to Elon Musk, entrepreneurs take risks to solve problems and create value. Washington should stop crowding them out, and with red tape and cronyism, that's really what they're doing. There's a good quote here. It's, quote, in the context of the social division of labor, production is necessarily centered on firms. These social economic units that specialize in playing the role of intermediary between people and consumers and people as resource owners, i.e. workers, savers, investors. This is a role that necessarily calls for entrepreneurship, decision-making in the face of uncertain market conditions by economist Milton Shapiro. Great quote there overall. And when you look at this, there's a lot of real-world examples that really fall into this particular category. When entrepreneurs are free to innovate, they create wealth, they solve real-world problems, and they reduce the transaction cost or trade-offs that's associated with it through profit and loss. Small businesses must continually innovate to compete, providing valuable goods and services that benefit us all, or we wouldn't have those transactions. Private sector jobs are the engine of innovation and prosperity, not government jobs that has to take from the private sector in order to give those government jobs money and resources. But when government expands at the expense of the private sector, it hampers job quality and wage growth. Why does all this matter? Well, entrepreneurs drive sustainable economic growth. They bring innovation, create jobs, solve problems through valuable goods and services. Without them, progress stagnates. Which is one reason why they're so important. Lesson number 2 today, profit is not a bad word, although we often hear that by so many people, but it's not a bad word. The profits signal value creation. That's what profits do. In a free market economy, businesses earn profits by providing goods and services people want. A company's profit shows it's using resources effectively, whether it's food, insurance, phone services, or any other product or services that you buy. When someone buys a product, it's because they think it's worth the price. Voluntary exchange makes both buyer and seller better off, or they wouldn't exchange. When a company fails to meet its people's needs, it loses money. This is another good quote that I think you should really try to let settle in your mind. Quote, in the capitalist system of society's economic organization, the entrepreneurs determine the course of production. In the performance of this function, they are unconditionally and totally subject to the sovereignty of the buying public, the consumers. If they fail to produce in the cheapest and best way possible, and those commodities which the consumers are asking for most urgently, they suffer losses and are finally eliminated from their entrepreneurial position. Other men who know better how to serve the consumers replace them, end quote, from the great economist Ludwig von Mises. So some real-world examples here is that people seek better jobs, lower prices, and improved quality of life. The free market channels these desires into positive outcomes. You can only earn a profit by offering something someone else values more. This is cooperation, not exploitation. This is mutual benefit, not zero-sum game. Big tech companies have created thousands of jobs, improving daily life through innovation and open new markets for smaller businesses. This all matters because to strengthen the economy, create jobs, and expand opportunities for everyone, we need more market freedom, not less. Profit isn't a problem, guys. Profit is how people get ahead. It's a pathway to prosperity. Number 3 here today is support entrepreneurs. Good institutions such as strong property rights and reliable legal system, not more government, right, make markets function effectively and foster entrepreneurship. That's why we must resist the weaponization of government agencies or the rewriting of laws to favor one group over another, where you pick winners and losers, as this can harm small businesses in particular. Another good quote by an economist is this quote, we must remember that God has created entrepreneurs with a rare combination of gifts and abilities, efficiency, responsibility, hard work, and risk-taking. The entrepreneur then takes these gifts and combines them with a special and often subtle insight about something people need and works very hard to fill this need in a creative and productive manner. In the process, he employs the labor of others, giving them a meaningful means to support their families. And in the end, he has created wealth and prosperity that had not existed before. And that's by none other than Reverend Robert A. Sirico. Excellent. You should definitely read his books out there as well, talking about capitalism and so much more. Real world examples of this is that high taxes discourage productivity and entrepreneurship. In contrast, a pro-growth tax system can unlock the potential of American workers and businesses. Kansas Governor Kelly recently rejected a promising regulatory sandbox program designed to let entrepreneurs test new products, services, or business models without the burden of outdated regulations. This would be really important because we need more businesses to have dynamic activity, more startups, more risk takers, and more people willing to build, hire, and grow. Our policy should support entrepreneurs who solve problems and innovate, allowing America to stay competitive and lead globally in innovation. Number 4 here today is applying principles today. When you look at antitrust and regulations, some policymakers want to break up big tech companies or impose new regulations. But these measures punish profits without addressing the root causes of market distortions and challenges. Take the minimum wage laws. In 2025, 23 states and 65 cities and counties will raise their minimum wages. When labor costs are artificially inflated through artificial minimum wage by government mandates, businesses must adapt, often in ways that harm workers. A better strategy is to create opportunities for skill development and innovation so workers can earn more through increased productivity, not government intervention and fewer jobs available that like a minimum wage does. What about inflation and taxes? Well, the slowing economy means more layoffs are coming. As inflation increases, businesses cost while consumers cut back on spending. Employers are scrambling to find ways to keep operations running, but it's tough out there. When the government raises taxes on businesses, it doesn't just come from a corporate wallet. It's passed down to workers in the form of lower pay, consumers in the form of higher prices, or shareholders, including anyone with a retirement account. Blaming companies for not, quote unquote, paying enough taxes misses the reality of how the tax system actually works. When you look at Texas, where I live, Texas is at the heart of the AI revolution, but new regulations threaten to undermine that momentum from Senate Bill 6 in the last session. Other bills could limit access to AI tools, increase compliance costs, or push businesses to leave the state. Texas must prioritize policies that encourage innovation, competition, and entrepreneurship. On a positive note, though, Texas serves as a prime example of how free market policies can foster robust economic growth if done wisely. Its low taxes, no personal income tax, minimal regulation, and pro-business environment have helped it consistently outperform the national averages in job creation and economic growth. Some of those are starting to fade now because Texas is overspending, overtaxing, and even overregulating as they're trying to ban everything under the sun these days. So they've really got to get back to those basic principles. This is talking to you, all of you state lawmakers that are listening. So my final thoughts on all this is that the most powerful force for growth, innovation, and prosperity isn't government intervention. It's the entrepreneurial spirit. Entrepreneurs, through their risk-taking and problem-solving, drive economic dynamism, create jobs, and deliver the products and services that make our lives better. But they can only thrive when policymakers create an environment where businesses are free to innovate, compete, and succeed. Unfortunately, we've seen a rise in policies that stifle this entrepreneur spirit, whether it's excessive taxes, overbearing regulation, favoritism, or other things like government spending that just re-entrench certain industries. This not only harms entrepreneurs, but the workers, consumers, and communities who benefit from their efforts. If we want to create lasting prosperity, we must focus on policies that empower businesses, reduce government interference, and encourage risk-taking. The future is in the hands of the entrepreneurs, folks, so let's get out of their way and let them do what they do best: solve problems, create value, and drive the growth that benefits us all. Thank you for joining me again today on This Week's Economy. For more resources and commentary, visit vanceginn.com and subscribe to my Substack at vanceginn.substack.com as well. Remember, you can always have me come and speak at one of your events, virtually or otherwise. I have all my services and fees on my website at vanceginn.com. It can also be on your podcast or do an interview on your show. I'd be glad to do that as well. So thank you for listening today. God bless you, and let people prosper.